Jordan sat calmly in seat 21A, just another face on American Airlines Flight 1221. No one suspected she was Colonel Jordan Hayes, the celebrated fighter pilot known as Wraith. When a hostile drone threatened their flight and F-22s appeared as escorts, the military pilots were stunned to hear her iconic call sign on their frequency. That single word changed everything. Before diving into the full story, drop a comment telling us where you're tuning in from. Also, remember to like and subscribe for more content like this. The early morning light streaked across Chicago O'Hare International Airport as travelers moved through the energetic terminal. Among them, Jordan Hayes walked with a quiet purpose, her simple gray jacket and slacks making her blend seamlessly with the hundreds of other people. At 37, she possessed a subtle confidence that onlookers would mistake for corporate success, not years of high-stakes combat missions. The only clue to her past was the rugged, practical watch on her wrist, standard military issue, though only a trained eye would ever notice it. Gate K-19 was alive with the standard buzz of a morning flight. Jordan found an open seat near the windows and pulled out a worn paperback, disappearing into the well-practiced skill of being invisible. She had perfected this civilian disguise over several years, wanting little more than a quiet journey without the inevitable questions from strangers about a life she couldn't and wouldn't discuss. American Airlines Flight 1221 to San Francisco is now boarding all groups, the gate agent's voice echoed from the speakers. Jordan slid her bookmark into place, gathered her small carry-on, and merged into the line. The process was predictable, almost soothing in its routine. Nobody gave her a second look, which was precisely how she liked it. Finding her spot in 21A, a window seat, Jordan settled in next to Frank Miller, a talkative tech salesman in his late 50s, and Maya, a graduate student who looked barely 25. Both seemed ready to chat as the Airbus A321 began to fill. Off to a conference or heading home? Frank inquired with the casual air of a seasoned flyer. Visiting some old friends, Jordan offered, with a practiced, friendly smile. You must be off to close a big deal in Silicon Valley. 20 years I've been flying this route, Frank said, efficiently stowing his briefcase. What kind of work do you do? Jordan had this answer down to a science. Federal contractor. It's mostly paperwork, honestly. Maya glanced up from her tablet, one earbud hanging loose. I'm Maya, by the way. I'm at Northwestern, going to a symposium at Stanford. Are you from the Bay Area? No, just visiting. I'm Jordan. The conversation meandered through the typical subjects strangers share on planes: weather, travel itineraries, the small talk that makes confined spaces more tolerable. As the flight attendants started their safety briefing, Jordan watched with the sharp focus ingrained in her by years of military training. Her gaze instinctively logged the emergency exits, noted the crew's positions, and mapped out potential escape plans. It was a reflex she couldn't turn off, even on a commercial flight. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Captain Evans," a voice announced over the intercom. "We're looking at a smooth trip out to San Francisco today, with clear skies and a flight time of approximately 4 hours and 10 minutes. Flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff." The Airbus pushed back from the gate, taxiing toward the active runway. Jordan watched the Chicago skyline diminish as they ascended toward their cruising altitude. Below, the vast grid of the Midwest stretched out, a patchwork of fields and towns. "You know," Frank said, opening his laptop after the seatbelt sign switched off, "I was in the Army myself back in the day. Logistics, nothing fancy. Always admired those Air Force guys, though. Wonder what it's like inside one of those F-22s. Jordan's focus sharpened almost imperceptibly, but she kept her tone light. "Must have been an interesting time. Oh, a completely different world. The technology now, these Raptors and F-35s, they're just astonishing machines." Frank shook his head in wonder. "My son-in-law is a crew chief at Nellis. Says the pilots who fly those things are a different breed." Unbelievable reflexes, thousands of hours of training. He calls them the tip of the spear. Maya added from the aisle seat, "My cousin tried for the Air Force Academy, but his eyesight wasn't perfect. He's in cybersecurity now, but still talks about flying jets." "Ever visit a military base?" she asked Jordan. "They sometimes have air shows. It's amazing to see those planes up close." "Once or twice," Jordan replied evasively. "Incredibly impressive, like you said." She turned her attention back to her book, a clear but polite signal. Frank, recognizing the cue, went back to his work. The cabin settled into a quiet hum as the aircraft leveled out at 35,000 feet. 300 miles away, at Midwest Sector Command, Master Sergeant Davis stared at his radar console with a knot in his stomach. The operations center was a hive of quiet intensity, its walls covered in screens tracking air traffic over the central United States. Something felt wrong. "Sector Command, we've got a non-responsive radar track about 150 nautical miles west of Chicago," Davis reported into his microphone. "Could be a large drone flying in a restricted corridor." Major Wallace, the senior officer on duty, walked over to Davis's station. "What's its classification?" "Unknown aircraft. Low altitude, not squawking any ID codes. Its flight path suggests a potential surveillance run." Davis highlighted the blip on his main display. "It's moving toward a major commercial flight path." "Alert Scott Air Force Base," Wallace commanded. "Scramble 2 Raptors for intercept and visual ID. It's probably nothing, but we don't play games with our airspace." At Scott Air Force Base, the scramble alarm blared through the morning calm. Major David Spectre Cole and Captain Maria Ghost Sanchez were sprinting to their jets before the sound even faded, mentally running through their takeoff procedures. Within minutes, 2 F-22 Raptors roared into the sky, their afterburners a brilliant orange against the blue canvas. "Spectre 2, this is Spectre 1, Cole radioed as they rocketed toward their intercept point. "We're up and en route. Keep your head on a swivel. We don't know what this thing is." "Copy, Spectre 1, Sanchez responded from her cockpit. "I have radar lock. Bogey bearing 290, angels 18 inches. Back on flight 1221, the journey was unfolding as usual." Maya was the first to see it, her face pressed against the window, more out of curiosity than fear. "Is it normal for fighter jets to fly this close?" Jordan followed her line of sight and saw the 2 distinct vapor trails slicing through the sky. Her trained eye instantly identified the pattern, interceptors closing on a target. Still, she kept her voice calm and steady. "They run training missions out here sometimes. It's nothing to worry about." Frank leaned over for a peek. "Probably just a routine patrol. After 9/11, they keep a much closer watch on things. My son-in-law says they run intercepts fairly often, mostly just private planes that are off course." Jordan nodded in agreement, but her expression was now one of quiet alertness. The way these jets were moving was not a training exercise. They were flying a textbook intercept vector she knew from her own combat experience. It was deliberate, focused, and very real. In the lead Raptor, Major Cole had a visual on the unknown aircraft. "Sector Command, Spectre 1 has eyes on the target. It looks like a high-altitude commercial drone, maybe modified for long-range electronic surveillance. Copy, Spectre 1. Identify and determine its threat level." "Spectre 1, Captain Sanchez called from the second jet. "I'm picking up strong electronic emissions from the bogey. It could be jamming equipment." "Sector Command," Cole's voice was now sharp with urgency, "recommend immediate rerouting of all commercial traffic in this sector. This could be a hostile recon platform." The directive came instantly from Chicago Center Air Traffic Control. "American 1221, Chicago Center. You are instructed to change course to heading 180 and begin an immediate descent to flight level 250. In the cockpit of Flight 1221, Captain Evans and his first officer exchanged worried looks. "Chicago Center, American 1221, can you advise the reason for this sudden deviation?" "American 1221, Be advised there is military activity in your area. This is for traffic deconfliction only." "Military activity?" the first officer mumbled. "That's a new one for this corridor." Passengers started murmuring as the aircraft banked sharply and began to descend. Jordan felt the change instantly, the shift in engine pitch, the distinct pressure of the turn. Her civilian mask remained perfectly in place, but every one of her military instincts was now screaming. "Why are we turning around?" Maya asked, her voice tinged with anxiety. A flight attendant, Brenda, passed by, her smile tight but professional. "Just a minor course adjustment, everyone. No cause for concern." Jordan unbuckled her seatbelt and gently got Brenda's attention. "Excuse me, but it feels like we're descending and making a significant course change. Is everything okay?" "The captain hasn't informed us of anything specific," Brenda answered in a low voice. "It's likely just air traffic, but I can ask the cockpit for you." Jordan nodded and sat back down, though her posture had changed. Frank noticed. "You seem concerned. Everything all right?" "It's just the timing, seeing those military jets and then this turn. Probably a coincidence, but—" Frank studied her expression. "You seem to understand this better than the average person." Before Jordan could reply, several passengers started pointing out their windows. The F-22 Raptors had closed in, taking up escort positions on either side of the Airbus, their angular forms now starkly visible. "Are those fighter jets?" a man called out. "Why are they flying so close to us?" another asked, his voice shaking. A wave of anxiety washed through the cabin. Jordan analyzed the jets' positions. Flawless formation, textbook escort procedure. These pilots were pros. Brenda's voice came over the PA system, strained but steady. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. We are being escorted by United States Air Force aircraft as a precautionary measure. There is no immediate threat to our flight." Maya grabbed Jordan's arm. "This isn't normal, is it? They don't just escort planes for no reason." Jordan's reply was calm and reassuring. "Military escorts are the most professional pilots in the world. When they're needed, you're in the best possible hands. We are probably safer at this moment than we were 10 minutes ago." Frank was looking at Jordan with intense curiosity now. "You really know about this stuff? Federal contractor, you said?" I've read up on it," Jordan replied, but she saw that Frank was no longer buying her story. In the lead F-22, Major Cole's situation was deteriorating. "Chicago Center, Spectre 1. Target is now actively jamming commercial and military frequencies. I repeat, we have confirmed hostile electronic warfare. The response was immediate and broadcast on an emergency channel. All stations. Emergency protocols are now active. Unidentified aircraft is conducting electronic warfare in Sector 9. Captain Evans felt a chill as warning lights flared on his dashboard. The cockpit filled with static, blocking any attempt to contact air traffic control. "We've lost all radio comms," he told his first officer. "The backup frequencies are jammed solid." "Do we declare an emergency?" the first officer asked. "I can't reach anyone." "We're flying blind until this clears up." The Airbus shuddered as it hit the wake turbulence from one of the F-22s. Passengers were becoming audibly distressed, sensing the gravity of the situation, even without understanding the details. "What's happening?" someone shouted from the back. "Why aren't the pilots telling us anything?" The flight attendants did their best to maintain order, but their own uncertainty was becoming visible. This was far outside the scope of their training. Frank turned to Jordan once more. "You have been exceptionally calm through all of this. That's not a typical trait for a contractor, is it?" Jordan knew her composure was now making her a liability to her anonymity. Years of combat had conditioned her to stay level-headed in a crisis, but that very conditioning was now making her conspicuous. "I just believe that panicking doesn't help," she said carefully, "and those pilots escorting us are the best in the business." "How do you know so much about their procedures?" Maya pressed. "You talk about them like you've met them." Before Jordan could think of another deflection, Brenda, the flight attendant, hurried to her seat, her face pale with stress. "Excuse me, ma'am. Captain Evans would like a word with you in the cockpit, if you don't mind." The request sent a shockwave of confusion through the nearby rows. Frank said what they were all thinking. Her? Why her? Jordan stood up without hesitation, her mind racing. "I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding." But as she followed Brenda to the front of the plane, she knew her carefully constructed civilian life was over. The only question was whether she could help solve this crisis without revealing more than was absolutely necessary. Captain Evans looked up as she entered the confined space. His expression was a mask of stress. "Ma'am, Brenda mentioned you had a federal background. We're in a real bind here. We've lost all communication with the ground, and we have 2 F-22s on our wing for a reason I don't like." Jordan sized up the situation in a heartbeat. Blinking warning lights, deafening radio static, and 2 of the most lethal fighter jets in the world flying a protective escort. This was not a drill. "What can I do for you, Captain?" "Frankly, I need someone who might know what's going on. Our radios are jammed, we have a military escort, and my passengers are on the verge of panic. I need to know if you have any idea what military protocols are in this situation." Jordan paused. Once she crossed this line, there was no going back to being just another passenger. But people's lives were at stake. "Captain, I think I can help, but you need to patch me through on any frequency you can raise with those jets." The first officer looked at her skeptically. "And who are you exactly?" Jordan met his gaze. "Someone who knows their language." In his Raptor, Major Cole watched the drone accelerate toward the commercial airliner. The hostile craft was making its move. "Spectre 1, bogey is increasing speed, closing on the civilian airliner," Captain Sanchez radioed. "Whatever its plan is, it's happening now." "American 1221, American 1221. This is Air Force Spectre 1 on emergency guard frequency 121.5. Do you read me?" Captain Evans lunged for his microphone. "Spectre 1, this is American 1221. We read you loud and clear, 5x5. American 1221, we have a hostile aircraft employing electronic warfare against civilian air traffic. We need you to follow our lead for an emergency descent and potential evasive action." Evans looked at Jordan, who gave him a firm, encouraging nod. The situation was now critical, and the standard flight manual was useless. Spectre 1 understood. "American 1221 is ready to comply with your instructions." Jordan reached for the radio, knowing that what she was about to say would change her life forever. "Captain, may I?" Evans hesitated for only a fraction of a second before handing her the microphone. "It's all yours." Jordan keyed the mic and spoke 2 words she hadn't used in years. "Spectre 1, this is Wraith." The response crackled back, immediate and sharp. Major Cole's voice was filled with disbelief. "Say again, American 1221? "Spectre 1, this is Colonel Jordan Hayes. Call sign Wraith. I am a passenger aboard American 1221. In the second F-22, Captain Sanchez almost veered off course." "Spectre 1, did she just say Wraith? The Wraith?" Cole's voice came back, now laced with awe and profound professional respect. "Wraith, this is Major David Cole. Call sign Spectre. Ma'am, if you are who I think you are, it's a profound honor to be flying with you." Jordan felt the familiar weight of command settle back onto her shoulders. "Spectre 1, give me a tactical update." "Wraith, we have a hostile drone using electronic warfare, approximately 2 miles off your port side, and closing. It appears to be targeting civilian aircraft with jamming hardware, possibly as a precursor to an attack." "Copy, Spectre 1. We need to get this airliner out of the engagement area. Can you escort us to an alternate field?" "Affirmatively, Wraith. We can escort you to Travis Air Force Base. It's about a 20-minute flight from your current position." Captain Evans and his first officer stared at Jordan, completely dumbfounded. The seamless use of military jargon, the calm authority, the palpable reverence from the fighter pilot, This was no federal contractor. Spectre 1, Jordan continued, I will coordinate with the civilian crew for emergency landing procedures. Maintain your escort and be prepared to engage the hostile if it maintains its current course. Roger that, Wraith. It's really damn good to have you back in the air, ma'am. Jordan felt a surge of complex emotions. For 4 years, she had tried to leave this world behind, to find a normal life. But hearing those words, good to have you back in the air, reminded her of why she had done it all, why she had dedicated her life to protecting the skies. She turned to Captain Evans, who was looking at her with a dawning comprehension. Captain, I owe you and your passengers an explanation. But right now, we need to prepare for an emergency landing. Word of the unbelievable radio conversation had somehow leaked back to the cabin. Frank was staring at Jordan's empty seat, the pieces clicking into place, while Maya was peppering the flight attendants with questions they couldn't answer. Did you hear what she called herself on the radio? Frank asked the passengers nearby. It sounded like Wraith. An older man across the aisle, wearing a Marine Corps veteran hat, sat up straight. Wraith? As in Colonel Jordan Hayes, the Wraith? Are you sure? You know that name? Frank asked. Know it, son. Anyone who follows military aviation knows that call sign. She's a living legend. Took down 4 enemy fighters over the Persian Gulf during Operation Iron Eagle. Single-handedly saved a reconnaissance team by taking out an entire SAM battery. They say she can make an F-22 do things its designers never thought possible. Maya's eyes were wide. The quiet woman in seat 21A is a war hero. If that's really her, the veteran said with a confident nod, then we are in the hands of one of the greatest combat aviators this country has ever known. In the cockpit, Jordan was coordinating the flight path to Travis Air Force Base. The hostile drone had been intercepted and neutralized, but its attack had exposed a critical vulnerability in civilian air travel security. Spectre 1, this is Wraith. Civilian aircraft is stable and on approach for escort to Travis. Copy, Wraith. Request permission for a non-standard maneuver. Go ahead, Spectre 1. Ma'am, on behalf of every pilot in the United States Air Force, we would like to perform an aerial salute. Your career, your actions in combat, you've been an inspiration to all of us. Jordan was silent for a moment, genuinely moved by the gesture. Spectre 1. That would be an honor. As Flight 1221 began its final descent toward Travis Air Force Base, the 2 F-22 Raptors broke formation and reformed in a ceremonial flyby. Major Cole and Captain Sanchez executed a flawless aerial salute, a gesture of ultimate respect reserved for the most revered military leaders. Passengers crowded the windows to watch the breathtaking display. The powerful fighters moved as one, a silent, graceful tribute to aviation excellence that almost no civilian ever gets to see. Frank was just shaking his head in disbelief. She was sitting right there, next to us the whole time, and we never knew. A living legend, and she was just reading a book like everyone else. Maya was equally astounded. She seemed so normal, so unassuming. I never would have guessed she was famous. The Marine veteran smiled. That's how you know they're the real deal. True heroes don't need the spotlight. They just do what needs to be done and then try to go back to their quiet lives. As the Airbus touched down on the runway at Travis, Jordan braced herself for the media storm and the renewed fame she had worked so hard to escape. But as she looked out the window at the F-22s, still flying a protective escort as they taxied, she felt a swell of pride and purpose she hadn't felt in a long time. The quiet woman from seat 21A was, indeed, Wraith, one of the Air Force's most storied pilots, whose skill and bravery had saved countless lives. And today, at 35,000 feet, her identity was revealed not by choice or ego, but by an unbreakable instinct to protect those in danger. The passengers of American Flight 1221 would forever tell the story of the day they learned that heroes truly do live among us, often hidden in plain sight, always ready to answer the call when their country and their fellow citizens need them. Jordan Hayes had tried to leave her military past behind her. But when a crisis unfolded in the sky, the call sign Wraith had returned to the fight one last time, with all the honor, skill, and legend that name commanded throughout the United States Air Force.